Welcome to the Successful Nonprofits Podcast. I'm your host, Dolph Goldenberg, and I have made the decision to postpone our regularly scheduled episode with Kate Dougherty. Instead, I wanted to take a little bit of space to reflect on the tragic killings that have thrust Black Lives Matter into the headlines and also to amplify Black voices. Looking back on New Year's Eve 2019, who among us thought that we would be where we find ourselves today? That a pandemic would sweep across the globe? That the pandemic would lay even more bare the disparities between people who are white and people who are black and brown? And that our nation would finally erupt in protests and our elected president would encourage those protesters to be dominated with troops, tear gas, bullets, and dogs? As a person with privilege, I have added my presence at Black Lives Matter protests and added my voice among those calling for justice and equality. But over the past week, I am also reminded of the importance of making the space for Black voices and our role in amplifying those voices. Now is a time to amplify Black voices, listen to those voices, and make some personal decisions. Those are personal decisions that I will make and personal decisions that I believe everyone should be making about what more each of us can do to stop the killing of Black people. So I am going to encourage you to read, watch, or listen to Black voices during the 30 minutes you would normally spend listening to the podcast this week. If you're looking for ideas or suggestions, here are a few voices that have helped shape my own thoughts on race and the fight for justice. And of course, I've linked them at successfulnonprofits.com. The first is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I would also suggest the book The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson and Brian Stevenson's book Just Mercy. At the website, I've also linked a few TED Talks that you might find good voices to listen to. One is an interview with the founders of Black Lives Matter. It's a few years old. It is well worth listening to. Another is Megan Ming Francis's TED Talk, We Need to Address the Real Roots of Racial Violence. And a final one is A Prosecutor's Vision for a Better Justice System with Adam Voss. So this is a short episode, probably only a few minutes long, even though the podcast is usually about 30 minutes. And I hope you will spend the rest of the time hearing from Black voices and determining what else you'll do to stand up and speak out. It is within our power to stop police violence, but it requires that we act. Dr. Martin Luther King eloquently said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." This is not the time for us to be silent. I am confident that the nonprofit sector has an important role to play in building a more just world, and I am certain that we're going to be talking about just that in future episodes. So I'm going to add those links to successfulnonprofits.com, and if there's a book, a podcast, an audio file, or a video that you would like to recommend that I read or listen to, please reach out to me. I want to hear what other voices and resources that you feel I should be listening to.